Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our webinar on wine stabilization. My name is Églantine Chauffour. I'm going to be your speaker today. I'm the winemaking product manager for Bucher Vaslin North America, and I represent Lamothe-Abiet. So before we dive in the topic of wine stabilization, let me introduce you the two partners for this webinar. So we have Bucher Vaslin, designer, manufacturer, and seller of material for grape and wine processing since 1856. They are present all around the world, based in France, focused on premium equipment for wine processing. Lamothe-Abiet, renowned winemaking product based in France, founded in 1878, so 140 years of expertise in winemaking consulting. It is a premium winemaking product brand that we are now making it available for you in North America. Bucher Vaslin is in North America, is expanding the portfolio. So we are now your partner with all premium brands for winemaking process. So we can offer you reception equipment. We can offer you Coastral bottling line, Caso wine pump, Lamothe-Abiet winemaking product, Alien robot sorting, and all the Bucher equipment that you can use during winemaking. Okay, so today let's talk about wine stabilization. And when we talk about stabilization, I actually would like to focus on maintaining wine quality over time and respecting the wine profile. Okay, so this will be during aging. We can also talk about how we can even enhance the quality of the wine during aging, but also we will look at how can we anticipate difficult storage conditions that we don't always have under control. Okay, so we're going to mainly focus on prevention instead of treating and fixing, because if we talk about wine quality, we are talking about preventing. So which stabilities we are going to talk about? Microbial and aromatic stabilities. These are very important parameters, especially when we are talking about aging. That's where we really can prevent, and that's where we really can make sure we are maintaining wine quality during aging. So that's going to be about preserving the wine quality. And then we will talk about colloidal stability, which is including proteins, tartaric, and color stability. This is where we focus more on how we can anticipate difficult storage conditions. So that's where we are actually making tests to have an idea of what might happen in the wine if somebody store it not properly. So there is a lot of might, maybe, and anticipation there, but we do have to do it as a winemakers to make sure the wine we deliver is proper and always related to the quality we want to make. Okay, so let's start with the microbial stability. So if you don't want your wine to smell like vinegar, fur, barn, wet dog, sweat, dirty mop, dirty socks, cheese, lactic, rancid, even a dead mouse, or urine or stagnant water. So if you don't want any of these in your wine, you will need to keep a spoilage microbe under control. Okay, this is seems a little bit extreme as a picture, but it does happen. I taste wines like this every day. It happens, and it's normal. It's just a matter of controlling microbes and making sure they are not developing and spoiling the wine. Okay, so the first thing here, the main actually thing when we talk about microbe management is going to be about prevention. So prevention is key. Prevention means work as soon as possible. Actually, work on the grapes is you can like work during the entire winemaking process. When you arrive to aging step, it's really about maintaining a prevention, but you should not have any removal to do if you did a good preventive job on grapes. Today we're focusing on post-harvest. So prevention means reduce favorable conditions for contamination. So control dissolved oxygen, temperature, and pH. Make sure everything is sanitized, but also check your lees, taste them, and check your topping wines. Usually, very commonly, a contamination comes from the topping wine. And then try to use a proper antimicrobial agent as early as possible in the process, in a preventive way. If you do have a contamination, the first question is going to be which microbes are we talking about and how many cells are we talking about. For this, you can smell, taste, analyze, speak with your suppliers, call me if you have any questions on this. I love to speak about microbes, so I will be happy to help you. And then you choose your proper antimicrobial agent. Here is a palette available for you, all the toolbox available for you. SO2 and pH, they have to be managed together since we talk about molecular SO2 as antimicrobial. It only inhibits the development of microbes. Lysozyme is a protein coming from egg white that will inhibit and kill lactic acid bacteria, so Lactobacillus, Pediococcus, Enococcus. That's very efficient against lactic acid bacteria, but that's it. Also, it is coming from egg white, so it is an allergen. It's an allergen agent, and it does require bentonite on white wine because it's a protein. Chitosan is my favorite antimicrobial agent, so I'm gonna talk a little bit more about this later in the next slides. It is a wide spectrum antimicrobial agent that comes from Aspergillus niger, so vegan, allergen free, and that works on every microbes except Saccharomyces. Sorbates and DMDC, both of these agents are usually used pre-bottling to inhibit the development of yeast, so to avoid re-fermentation, especially in sweet wines. They have a very limited action on bacteria. Okay, so once you remove the microbes, if you do have a contamination, that's when you can think about treating the off aromas, and this would be with a fining, so casein or carbon usually works pretty good. Okay, so a very interesting point that we realize in a very consistent manner that is that any fining, or I would say more clarification, can enhance the antimicrobial agent effect. When you do have a contamination, we realize that if you do a good clarification, you're actually reducing the amount of cells, which allows you to then use an antimicrobial agent at a lower dosage, so lower cost of treatment. So here, just an example, but you have a picture of a plate of a wine racked without fining. We are having 31,000 cells per mil of Brettanomyces. You can see they grow everywhere. The wine racked after a treatment with gelatin, we are only at 180 cells per mil. If we double the dose of the gelatin, we are at 100. So here, I'm not trying to say that basically gelatin is the best fining agent. What I'm trying to say here is that clarification is very important. It's not about the amount of fining agent that you use, it's about the fact to use it and to clarify your wine. So he says the best recommendation I could have for you would be first clarify and then rack. So use settling enzyme. Enozyme Clar, it's a settling enzyme developed by Lamothe-Abiet that is free or purified of cinnamyl esterase activity. So you don't have any risk of using this enzyme on wine. No volatile phenol will be produced, and you will clarify your wine and have a much lower population of spoilage microbes in the racked wine. Then use fining agents, bentonite, gelatin, egg white. Any of these fining agents can be good. And then you can use an antimicrobial agent. This will allow you to be more efficient with lower dosage and a lower cost. Okay, which antimicrobial agent, as you can imagine, I just told you chitosan is my favorite molecule, so that's the one I'm going to talk about. So chitosan is antimicrobial agent that has a wide spectrum. It works against Brettanomyces, yes, but also lactic acid bacteria, so Lactobacillus, Pediococcus, Enococcus, Acetobacter, some non-Saccharomyces yeast such as Zygosaccharomyces. So it has a very wide spectrum antimicrobial, wide spectrum of action. It's a molecule that has been used for many years in pharmaceutical, cosmetic, medical purpose as an antimicrobial agent, so it is time for us to use it in winemaking. In winemaking, this polysaccharide is actually coming from the deacetylation of chitin, where we are basically ending up with a positively charged molecule, as you can see here. The chitin is extracted or derived from Aspergillus niger, so a fungus. So our chitosan in winemaking is allergen-free and is vegan. How it works? By charge attraction. So I just told you we are having a molecule that is positively charged. Most of the microbial cells have a residual negative charge on their cell walls. So they do attract each other as a magnet. So chitosan has actually both physical and biological effect. So first, it does has this adsorption effect on cells. So cells will be adsorbed on chitosan. There is an adherence effect, and then sedimentation as it is not soluble. You can see here on the pictures, there's many studies that show this effect, that where we put chitosan, there is a big attraction of the cells. You can see it here, but also in the second picture in the middle of the screen, where the Brettanomyces cells are attracted as a magnet to chitosan and stay there. Second action is that there is an interruption of the metabolism. Here, a graph where we look at the evolution of the released ATP with different concentration of chitosan over time. And basically what you can see, so blue is with no chitosan and the white is with higher dosage of chitosan. What you can see here is that with time, there is much more ATP released when we use chitosan, which means that the cells are leaking. Okay, ATP is, if it's released in the environment, it means it's not in the cells anymore. It means that the cell, there is a leakage here, which basically the conclusion is chitosan does has a biological effect on cells. It interacts with the metabolism, and it also leads to leakage of the cells, which means cell lysis, which means cell death. Okay, so it's actually a very important information because it means we can use chitosan for curative and preventive. Curative, you have a contamination, you know you have Brettanomyces or Lactobacillus in your wine, you are gonna use 4 to 6 grams per hectoliters of chitosan as a fining agent. You let it drop. This will remove the cells, but also kill them, and you rack it off the lees. Okay. Prevention, you don't think you have any contamination, you don't know, you don't want to take the risk of any contamination, so you are going to use chitosan after malolactic, 2 grams per hecto. You add it in your wine as systematic, and this chitosan will attract whatever cells is there, if there is any, but also will actually stay active for 4 months after treatment and interact with the metabolism of these cells. Okay, so we actually realize that after contamination, after a treatment, if we still have chitosan in the wine, we realize that the Brettanomyces metabolism was affected and we have a lower production of volatile phenols. So Lamothe-Abiet developed a pure chitosan fining agent. I told you we focus on premium winemaking products, so purity is important for us. So we use a pure chitosan fining agent, which is called KILLBRETT, as you can see here. Very inspiring packaging. But KILLBRETT is our, so because it's a pure molecule, we use it less. So we use much lower dosage in terms of treatments, which means that we have lower cost by treatment, but also a limited impact on the organoleptic profile of the wine. Okay, so the dosage recommendation when we are moderate contamination or preventive, we are at 2 grams per hectoliters of the KILLBRETT. If we are high, which means 1,000 cells per mils, 4 to 6 grams per hecto. Very high, more than 10,000 cells per mils, we are talking about 6 to 8. So KILLBRETT is a vegan allergen-free antimicrobial agent with a wide spectrum of action. So it can control malolactic fermentation, it can remove spoilage microbes, it can prevent from the spoilage if you use it as preventive. It can also inhibit the production of volatile phenols. Prevention means 2 grams per hecto. contamination means 4 to 6 to up to 8. Okay, so that's really a key molecule and a key product if you want to manage your microbes during aging. Okay, as I told you, microbial management has to be thought a little bit earlier in the process. When you arrive in aging, you want to maintain this prevention. So here is all the winemaking tools that Lamothe-Abiet developed for you to manage your microbes. I already did some webinar on the first part of how to manage microbes at harvest and crush, especially focusing on our Excellence Bio Nature, which is an organic certified bioprotection, so non-Saccharomyces yeast, non-fermenting, that allows you a good inhibition of spoilage microbes. So you will have lower VA, lower ethyl acetate, better fermentations, and also lower contamination risk down the road if you use Excellence Bio Nature on grapes. But today we focused mainly on barrel aging and pre-bottling, and that's where I personally think KILLBRETT is the best fining agent slash antimicrobial agent that you can use to manage your microbes. So the next stabilization I want to talk about is aromatic stability. And here it's mainly gonna be protection from against oxidation. So we want to protect the wine from losing freshness, loss of varietal characteristic, loss of balance, loss of complexity. We want to protect the wine and the aromas from becoming honey, bee wax, caramel, dried fruit, plum, nutty character. And we want to protect the wine from turning color, as you can see in this screen. So that's our objective. We basically want to avoid any premature aging. Okay, so for this, the main responsible of all this loss of freshness and aromatic is the oxidation. So the first thing to do is to check your cellar practices, make sure you are working with a limited dissolved oxygen. So for this, you want to measure DO regularly, and you want to always be lower than 0.1 ppm. You want to sparge in line with nitrogen during any transfer or movement of the wine. Limit headspace. When you are aging in tank or in barrel, use CO2 or argon. Resonate your topping schedule to make sure you don't go too much, but also don't forget your barrels. And then use qualitative pumps to really limit the dissolved oxygen. So our Caso pumps have been developed specifically for wine. They are premium wine pump that allows you a very little dissolved oxygen and a much better control all the way to for all the process of winemaking. Manage your free sulfur. Improve your wine resistance to oxidation. That's a strategy that we are going to develop in the next slides, but it's basically tools are available now to enhance the amount of natural antioxidant molecule compounds that are present in your wine, which is the glutathione. So we are going to talk about AROMAPROTECT. And then think about alternatives to cold stabilization. If you look at the different steps of winemaking or cellar actions and the dissolved oxygen associated to it, in average, really far away, cold stabilization is the step that has the most impact on dissolved oxygen and on wine quality. You put it cold, you mix it cold, you pump it cold, you filter the wine cold. All these actions are having a strong impact on dissolved oxygen, and then once the wine warm up, the oxygen will be consumed, and then you will see the result, which usually it's already in bottle. So we're going to develop cold stabilization alternative when we talk about cold stability. Okay, so about AROMAPROTECT. AROMAPROTECT is a yeast derivative rich in glutathione and some cysteine compounds as well. It does reinforce the wine resistance to oxidation. It limits oxidation reaction, it elongates wine shelf life, and it really increase the natural resistance towards oxidation. Okay, so glutathione present will trap the quinone before they can react with any other compounds. The dosage, 15 to 30 grams per hecto at the end of fermentation. As you can see here, we have we are looking at the amount of glutathione in a Sauvignon Blanc 3 months after alcoholic fermentation, so 3 months after the addition of AROMAPROTECT. You can see we really enhance the amount of glutathione. We almost double it. Then if we look in rosé, here some results. 5 months after alcoholic fermentation, you can see that if we compare the amount of thiolic compound in this rosé from the control to the AROMAPROTECT, we have 61% more aromas in AROMAPROTECT, not because we increased it, but because we protected it. As you can see here, this graph is showing you the evolution from the end of alcoholic fermentation to 6 months later. Plain curve is AROMAPROTECT, dash point is the control. And you can see for each of the thiolic compounds that we look at, but also would happen with esters or acetates. 6 months after, when we use AROMAPROTECT, we are more or less at the same level than 1 month of aging with the control. So we really protect strongly the aromas from oxidation. Okay, next stability, we are now jumping into colloidal stability, talking about protein. Protein stability is actually any colloidal stability are associated to visual defects. So they are really a defect that we try to anticipate due to difficult storage condition, but also a defect that is visual. So not completely linked to the taste of the wine, but really the consumer still reject the wine because it is not looking good. Okay, so protein stability is due to the denaturation of protein with high temperature, and it does create a haze, as you can see in the picture on the side. It's related to the colloidal composition of the wine, but also the protein composition of the wine. So grape variety, terroir, grape maturity, wine treatments, all these can impact the amount of unstable protein you will have. How can you test it? The most common tests are the heat bath. So you have the 60 degrees for 24 hours or the 80 degrees for 2 hours. And then we are reading the NTU change. But really, as we are anticipating difficult conditions, what really matters is what is your standard. Like, are you gonna be completely in control of the distribution of your wine? And in this case, maybe you want to go with a less strict test, accepting a higher turbidity change or going more on the 60 degrees for 24 hours. Or if you really don't control it and you want to make sure you're stable no matter what, and you go with an extreme test where you can go 80 Celsius for 2 hours plus the addition of tannin, for example. Okay, your options here, nothing really crazy and new. You have the bentonite. Use a sodium bentonite for higher protein removal effect. Lamothe-Abiet developed a bentosol protect. We really work on developing a bentonite that have a strong capacity to remove protein without removing and altering the organoleptic profile of the wine. So bentosol protect. As a tip, I highly recommend to use bentonite during fermentation. When you do use bentonite during fermentation, we saw in a very consistent way that you can reduce your amount of bentonite treatment by half. So it can help in terms of bentonite use, but also you are stripping much less the wine. First, because you use less, but also because your aromas are not made yet. So during half fermentation, just use half of the bentonite you normally used, and it should be enough. Another maybe innovation, we can call it like this, on bentonite use is Lamothe-Abiet developed a bentonite that is compatible with crossflow. So it is a specific chalcosodic bentonite that has no abrasion of the membrane or pump on the crossflow. So we can use it pre or during crossflow. So Bucher has developed, Bucher Vaslin has developed filter that allows to inject in line the bentonite just pre-crossflow, and in basically one transfer of the wine, you can treat your wine for stability and filter it. So you save time, you save bentonite, and you save quality. Next option to stabilize protein is going to be the addition of tannins, the tannin-gallical alcohol, which is a gallic tannin we developed specifically for whites and rosé. This tannin will react strongly with protein as any sacrificial tannin. That's why we develop them. We develop them to react with lacase to avoid botrytis oxidation, but also to remove protein or to improve filtrability. This tannin allowed you to reduce the dosage of bentonite, as you can see in the graph here. When we look at how much bentonite we need to achieve stability, you can see that when we add the tannin 1 or the tannin 2, we are reducing a lot the level of bentonite needed to achieve stability. So no big secret on protein stabilization, no big revolution, but actually very interesting tools that if you add them one by one, you will improve drastically your protein stability, and you will reduce drastically your needs in bentonite. So use a proper bentonite at the right time. Bentosol protect sodium bentonite during fermentation. Then you can fine-tune your bentonite needs while you are using cross-flow by direct injection of bentosol FT, and work with tannin-gallical alcohol, which is a gallic tannin. Sorry for the name. It's a gallic tannin that you can use on grapes that will react with protein and help you removing this unstable protein. Next, colloidal instability, tartrate stabilization. So tartaric stabilization is actually, we are trying to avoid the precipitation of bitartrate, potassium bitartrate crystals in the bottle due to cold temperature. So again, it's mainly focused on wine that will be chilled. So we're talking about whites and rosé, but more and more reds as well. And we want to avoid precipitation of crystals. So we want to avoid what you can see in this picture. It's related to the solubility of potassium bitartrate, which is depending of wine pH, alcohol temperature, so the colloidal structure of the wine. Okay, the pH is actually going to have a strong impact on the amount of potassium bitartrate you are going to precipitate, and also how the wine is going to be, because the precipitation of potassium bitartrate crystals will actually impact your pH and your acidity. How to test for it? There is many tests that exist. You can do a cold rolled, which is representing what we do when we put the wine in the fridge. So you can hold your wine at -4 for 3 days and then look at the amount of crystal created. Conductivity. Conductivity reading is probably the most accurate and common test used nowadays. Concentration product, saturation point, freeze test is used too. I'm not a big fan of the freeze test because it is not accurate and very drastic, but it can be accurate in some cases if you do ship wine in a place that you take a risk to have a truck stuck in the snow and you will have wine frozen. Your options here to stabilize for tartrate, you can do traditional way, which means cold rolled and seeding, or the physical alternatives such as electrodialysis or ion exchange resins, or the enological alternatives that I'm going to talk right now. So looking a little bit more of the tartaric stabilization strategies, we have the subtractive category, which is a cold roll plus seeding, electrodialysis, or ion exchange. We are removing things from the wine. We are changing the composition of the wine. These strategies have a higher cost. They are very efficient, but they have a higher cost in terms of energy, labor, time, and process. Also, you lose quality. You are impacting the wine. You're changing the wine parameters and composition. You're losing volume. And there is a high environmental impact. It's not very sustainable. We are looking at using a lot of energy cold. We are using a lot of water. The reverse approach that has been developed by winemaking companies is the additives approach. The additive approach, we have 3 options here: monoprotein, Arabic gum, and CMC. We also have potassium polyaspartate, which is a new addition to this additive methods. But so manoprotein, Lamothe-Abiet developed a STABK product that is a pure manoprotein developed to stabilize colloidal structure of the wine. Arabic gum, gum LA, and CMC with the VINOPROTECT. These additive methods have a much lower cost in terms of treatment. They preserve wine quality as we don't change anything from the wine. No volume loss, actually it's the opposite. We are adding to the wine, so we are increasing the volume of the wine. There is a much lower environmental impact as we don't use any energy, and it's a much faster process as we add it and it's done. It's immediate. So looking a little bit more about this alternative method, they inhibit the crystal formation and the crystal growth. That's actually the growth is mainly for the CMC products, but it does inhibit the formation of the crystal. One big requirement is that the wine has to be prepared before the treatment. The wine has to be ready to bottle, so with a low turbidity. If you do cross-flow, we recommend to use it post-cross-flow, pre-final filtration. And we recommend an addition of minimum 24 hours before the final filtration to have the product well integrated within the colloidal composition of the wine. If we're talking about sparkling, you can add it at tirage or at disgorging. You can add it within a week before the final filtration, and you don't have to cross-flow, but you do want to have the wine clarified. Here are all the options you have. So CMC, our VINOPROTECT is a 5% solution. It's a very efficient way to stabilize for tartrate, even the high level of instabilities. There is some requirement here. We can't really use it on red or on very high colored rosé without Arabic gum because we are destabilizing color with CMC. And we need to be sure we are completely extremely protein stable before using it on white rosé and sparkling. When this is achieved, it's a perfect product to stabilize high level of instability in wine. Okay, STABK, our pure manoprotein, can be used in any type of wine, and we are treating medium to high level of instabilities. It will also stabilize color and impact the mouthfeel, giving some roundness and volume to the wine. Then we developed two other products, Stabilization, which is a blend of Arabic gum and manoprotein to treat medium to low instabilities for any type of wines, and Arabic gum, gum LA, mainly focusing on color stabilization, but it does stabilize every colloid. So we use gum LA in conjunction with VINOPROTECT if we are talking about colored rosé or reds, and we use gum LA for a lower level of instability in whites and rosé. Okay, so here is the table of all our offering. If we look a little bit more on CMC, as it is the most efficient product we have on the market, VINOPROTECT is a pure CMC 5% solution. It's a polysaccharide that is derived from cellulose, so it is plant derived. Something very important to know is that not every CMC are the same. There is many differences on the CMC in the market, and mainly talking about the concentration, the filtrability, and the efficiency. So you have to look at the substitution degree, which is the amount of carboxyl group, which will impact the charge of the molecule, which is directly related to the efficacy, so the inhibition of the crystal formation and growth. But also the polymerization degree, which is the amount of units of sugar we have in the polysaccharide. This is directly related to viscosity, but also have an impact on the inhibition effect of the crystal growth. Lamothe-Abiet worked really on these two parameters to make sure we can have a very efficient product with a good filtrability, and we ended up with solution at 5% of VINOPROTECT for the best efficiency and best filtrability you can find on the market. Okay, the other product I would like to develop here is STABK. So STABK will be for basically every type of wine. So I'm talking about sparkling, red, rosé, white. As you can see here, STABK is a pure monoprotein, but you can see the picture here. We are stabilizing for crystal formation, Sauvignon Semillon here. When we use 100 ml per hecto of STABK, there is no crystals. But also if we look at red wine, when we are using 100 ml per hecto of STABK in a Merlot, we inhibit we remove the presence of tartaric crystal, and there is no problem with color and stability as well. So STABK came out from many studies and many observations also that we know that the effect of monoprotein, as a protective colloid on wine stability since 1933, so that's not new. We also know that monoprotein act as stabilizing agents. They prevent protein haze, they inhibit crystallization of tartaric salt, but they also react with phenolic compounds as stabilizer. They reduce astringency, and they even act as an aromatic support. So STABK is actually much more than just a colloidal stabilizer. It stabilizes for tartrate, it helps protein stabilization, stabilize color, reduce astringency, stabilize aromas. It basically covers many stabilization points we just talked about, except the microbial one. Talking about color stabilization, usually color stabilization is associated to tartrate stabilization in red wine or very colored rosé. It's a very, it's an important topic to think about much earlier in the process. So you want to think about it when you're processing your grapes. And for this, I invite you to watch the webinar made previously on phenolics in red that you can find on our YouTube channel. The risk here is a loss of color and the precipitation in bottle or on the cork. As you can see here, this is very common, finding tartrate and color on the cork. How can you test for it? You need to do a cold roll of 2 days at 4 Celsius. And then you can observe how much coloring matter and tartrate precipitates. Tools available to the winemaker. Here we can have tannins working earlier in the process. We have monoprotein, such as STABK, we just saw it, but also Nature Soft, which is our pure monoprotein we use during fermentation to help mouthfeel and to stabilize color, as you can see in the graph here. Our gum LA, Arabic gum, specially designed for stabilizing colloid, so stabilize tartrate, but also color. And then the last approach here that is possible is you are ready to bottle, you know your color is not stable, you can just remove your unstable color through fining with some gelatin and bentonite before you bottle your wine. And in this case, the color, you lose it, but it's not precipitating in the bottle. Okay, so the take-home message here in wine stabilization, which is a very global approach. As you saw, there is like 2 big categories. One really like microbial and aromatic. It is really talking about prevention, and this can really lead to wine spoilage and loss of quality. And then we have another category, which is a colloidal stability, which is tartaric protein and color, which is much more related to the consumer appreciation and the visual aspect of the wine, but it doesn't change much the wine organoleptic profile. Colloidal stability, everything has to be thought early in the process, but colloidal stability is usually treated just before bottling. So if we think about the entire process, on grapes, we want to protect microbes using excellence bio nature and sulfur to inhibit the development of spoilage microbes. We want to really protect from oxidation, to protect our natural antioxidant compounds from oxidizing. We want to protect our aromas. And also you can start working on protein stabilization with the tannin gallical alcohol. Protannin R is a product we didn't talk about, but is a very efficient product to use to protect color. as a sacrificial tannin on grapes on red wines. During fermentation, proper nutrition, fermentation management that will help you with microbial issues, using bentonite halfway during fermentation to reduce your needs of bentonite and stabilize without impacting the wine profile. And then talking about colloidal and color, Nature Soft and Soft and V will be your options in red wines. When we talk about aging and pre-bottling, that's what we focus on today. KILLBRETT is basically your only options here as preventive or treatment to limit and remove spoilage microbes. AROMAPROTECT will completely help you managing your oxidation and protect your wine from oxidation, so you will maintain freshness and purity of your aromas. Bentonite for protein stabilization. And when we talk about colloid, so tartrate or color, we have Nature Soft, STABK, Gourmet, and VINOPROTECT on whites and rosé for tartrate stability. It was a lot of product. I know it's a pretty complex topic. Really, please feel free to email me any question you have. Also, this webinar will be on YouTube, so you're more than welcome to rewatch it. And we have all the product available in Santa Rosa, California. So feel free to ask me any samples you need for testing and any question you have. Thank you very much for your attention.